So how do we get to where we want to go in terms of measuring some of these concepts as well as the conceptual framework to measure? So we have developed for each of these different aspects various tools, Dr. Slinsky and myself. So for example, the premorbid personality, we have a measure called the Rehab Neuropsychological and Health Status Inventory, which looks at a lot of premorbid personality characteristics. Everything from people who are a little bit more dependent to people who are more obsessive compulsive, people who are more assertive or aggressive. And we're also looking at life roles through the rehab checklist. So there are all kinds of life roles, obviously, and people will value their life roles differently. Some are very, very fixed, that work is really my true entity, my most important life role. Others, even though they're working, it might be the parent role that they take. Or it could be the caregiving role of my parent or an elderly person. Or it could be, yeah, work's fine, my family's great. I want to play tennis all the time. Or golf all the time, golf widows. So it's important that we understand, what their primary life roles were. A, because nobody's going to, no client or patient is going to adhere to my rehab plan if my interest is just getting them back to work, where their interest is getting them back to playing golf or reconnecting them to their family. They can no longer pick up their young kids, play with their young kids. They can no longer keep up with their older kids' homework because of cognitive impairments. Whatever that may be, we need to understand what the roles are, A, that they aspired to in the past, but also what roles do they aspire to now? Because these injuries and disease can be very existentially threatening or awakening, where people can take time out and realize, I've been pouring my life into work. I have been neglecting my family. That maybe has actually rallied behind me, and I've never really appreciated them so much, and I've treated them like dirt all these years because I've been off playing golf all the time. So we have to understand the premorbid, we also have to understand how that aspect changes over time. We have a measure called the pre-post condition life event survey that talks about different kinds of stressful life events that have occurred with the person. The Rehabilitation Health and Neuropsychological Status Inventory also talks about a number of different, looks at a number of different schemas around what they perceive as being wrong with them and issues in terms of recovery. Symptoms are captured by both the rehab checklist, the rehab survey of problems and coping that I'll speak of in a few minutes. Emotional adjustment, again, the RSOPAC, RNHSI, and the person's activity level, of course, which is critical, picked up on both the rehab checklist, activity daily living survey, and coping status by the rehab survey of problems and coping. And this was the one that speaks of the stressors, because just because I've had an injury or disease process doesn't mean that's the only thing going on with me. What the main concern might be the fact that I've lost my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, that my kid has dropped out of school. And that's really what my depression is all about, really quite separate or contributing to. My depression might be about a combination of both. But unless I'm, as a psychologist, unless I'm aware of and dealing with the other aspects that are contributing, if I'm completely ignorant of those aspects, then the chances of an emotional recovery process are going to be a lot slimmer.